All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I'll call to order this special meeting of the Sturgis City Council budget hearings on November 25th at 6:30. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I would motion to approve with the addition of an item after exec for action on the union contracts, as well as the item for announcements after the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, I went out of order there.
All right, we've got a first by Ruth to amend the agenda to add action on the union contract after executive session and the addition of announcements and praise.
Second.
We've got a second by Jim. All those in favor of the agenda as motioned indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those that disagree state by no. All right. Next item is reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in reciting our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have a few announcements. Wednesday, November 27th is double garbage day, as we will not be picking trash up on Thursday or Friday. City offices will be closed Thanksgiving Day and the day after, Friday. And we've got a community Thanksgiving dinner at our community center starting at 11 a.m. Thanksgiving Day, lasting until 2 p.m. So if you know somebody that needs help to get down there, I think there's quite a few people that are moving meals around and hauling people down there, so good stuff. Saturday, November 30th is Small Business Saturday. Help support our small businesses by shopping locally on Saturday. Obviously, lots of people take on Black Friday deals, but this is a way to support our community through Small Business Saturday. And Saturday, November 30th, the Sturgis Public Library has our first ever youth craft market. So if you need some Christmas gifts, different things, I'm sure that that our youth have of the community have done a fine job of applying their talents and offering those items for sale. Saturday, November 30th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Does anybody from council have any additional announcements or praise?
The AFT forum tomorrow evening, 6 to 8 at the Erskine building. Erskine.
Yeah, correct. Come listen to the AFT American Flat Track talk about the Spirit of Sturgis TT in 2024 and what their vision is for 2025. Anything else?
What was the time on that?
6 p.m. Erskine building. Meade County Erskine building. Upstairs in the commissioner's chambers. Any announcements or praise from the gallery? All right. Proceeding on. We've got one item on our claims today. It's an item of importance, so we're going to go ahead and consider that on our special meeting. Is there any questions about this Ready South Dakota or Dakota Ready mix claim? Is someone willing to make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to approve.
And we've got a first to approve the Dakota Ready mix claim by Jesse.
I'll second it.
Second by Tony. Is there any further discussion? Any questions from the public? Those in favor of paying the Dakota Ready mix claim indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 5 is our continuation of our budget discussions. This is our third and final discussion. This process has been based off of the preliminary budget that our former mayor began to indicate kind of how we got started. There was a request by the mayor to bring forward 10% cuts in all budgets to try and make sure that we can balance the budget for 2025. I think we've had good discussions to date. It's been nice to see the strength that our departments have and the knowledge that they have and their willingness to take part of trying to keep our community on track financially, and that extends even to some of our other partners as well. Again, the reports that are on the budget or on the discussion on the agenda are preliminary, and they are not final. They are what we are going to use to approach our Wednesday Legal and Finance meeting, where we do a final compilation of the 2025 budget, and it will be presented in its entirety on the agenda when it goes live, hopefully Friday, right, Deb? That is going to look a lot like a presentation that the community of Brookings has done in the past. So if you have any questions that come forward on that, please pass them on. But without delaying any further, we'd like to start discussing the individual budgets. And the first item on the agenda as far as discussion is our animal shelter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have myself here tonight along with Autumn Lyons, one of my animal control officers. She's here as well, so she can answer any questions that I may not be able to. So we're here to answer any questions. Our budget, as you guys have seen, it's probably one of the few that didn't have a major cut to it. Last year we separated it, or this first year we actually separated it from the police department, so we can start getting a good grasp on the amount of money it takes to run the animal shelter, as well as all the expenses that are associated with that. So with that, I'd answer any questions if you have it.
Well, Jody, we had good discussion at Legal and Finance about it. I don't think that there was any questions that came out of that group. There was one item, I think we were talking about fuel, our gasoline number at $9,600, and I think you were going to do some checking to kind of circle back on that.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't know if I've gotten any. I have not gotten any figures, I guess you could say. So I can do some more digging and find out what they've spent historically, but I believe that is a bit high. So they've historically been under the police department, so trying to get them all out individually is it's easier said than done, trying to figure out what they've spent. But I do believe there could probably be associated cuts with that to still manage and be able to actively respond to calls and continue their reactive and proactive driving.
I think our discussion in committee was that we thought that was somewhere around 50,000 miles worth of driving time. And, this process, thank you for bringing that forward, that going forward, we're going to need to be responsible to our line items so that we can develop the trends that help us be effective budgeters in the future on these. And this new budget, where it was split out from under you, we don't have a good history, so it's going to take us a little bit of time to define that. One question that we had, and I think you explained it well, but how about we discuss it? There's actually some construction at the animal shelter. And
Yeah, Sorry to interrupt you, go ahead.
I think that was actually funded off of donations that are in our general fund at this point.
That is correct. A lot of our operations are done with the donations from citizens and civic organizations, and without them, we honestly couldn't operate the way we do. So we appreciate those people that come forward on a regular basis, whether it's food or whether it's supplies or even volunteer hours to do remodel projects. But we've done a few here and there over the years with a goal of saving, saving heat and air conditioning, for example. We're putting in a walk door instead of a big old garage door. We do have some need with some change with some leaking issues that we want to do some landscaping, some yard, changing the way the water flows around that outside of the building, and also hopefully to put some kennel runs so that our kennels are able to be accessible indoor and outdoor, so that if we have a vicious dog or animal, that they can go out that door to use the facilities instead of having to stay kenneled up inside. So there is some plans going forward to do some remodels as time and, as you know, money allows. So
Right, I think that that drainage thing that is where we've got drainage coming off of the DOT yard there is affecting some of your kennel space and whatnot. That'll be important to make sure that we address that. Does anyone from council have any questions or comments on the budget for the animal shelter? How about members of the public? Is there any comments or questions? I think they're doing a great job with the financing that they have. I appreciate your openness to go ahead and have discussions that are tough like this, because this is somewhat budgeting by 1,000 paper cuts, so to speak. We're gonna balance the budget. Hopefully I can make a joke on this that our ambulance does the flock a yard. Maybe the animal control can skunk a yard, and you might be able to get an awful big donation to get the skunks out of the yards. So.
especially if you use live skunks for that.
Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, next is our police budget. Jody, you've made some pretty serious adjustments to this budget. The 2024 budget was $2.4 million. We're not able to pull that down completely because of the nature of police protection, but you have made some substantial cuts in your budget. It's down to 3.8, or excuse me, 1.38. So there has been some adjustment in there. Can you talk about what where you've made those adjustments?
So trying to be good stewards with not only citizens keeping our services up, but also being a good partner of the city with other departments having to make cuts. None of these cuts are ever easy, but we try to make them where we can to still provide quality service. These cuts cut pretty deep, but I think they're sustainable for maybe a year. You start getting too far out there in 2 years, 3 years, and we're going to start having added increase because of the cuts. But I won't go through in each line, but there's roughly about 21 different line items that we either cut completely or cut portions out of that with approximately $125,200 cut to our overall budget. Like I said, it's not a popular cut, but it's a necessary cut to try to help make the ends meet with the city, hopefully with the goal, like all of our departments have been up here preaching and praying, that you guys will hopefully refund or find a way to add these cuts back into our budgets. And that's not just the police department. I speak on behalf of all the city. We're gonna try to make these cuts and be good team members, and hopefully we can come out the backside better and stronger. So if you have any individual questions on them, like I said, I don't want to go through each line item per se, but if you have questions, I can definitely answer them.
Jody, I have one question, and that's your cut to training and conferences. I mean, you've come up with a strategy to be able to make sure that your team's ready and meet their continuing training objectives.
Yeah, if you see our outside, our non-sponsored training, there's still some there so that some of our guys and gals are mandated to have certification upgrades. We're mandated to have 40 hours of training minimum every 2 years. A lot of that we can do in-house, and we do that with some of the great instructors that we have and the partnerships with other agencies, along with our own instructors. So we'll be able to do some of that, but there'll also be, the nice thing is law enforcement training and peer offers a lot of our training for free. So it just costs us basically gas and the officer's time to get down there for whether it be a 24-hour training or 40-hour training or whatnot. But yes, it's not pretty, but we won't be able to be proactive on our training, but we can definitely maintain right now.
Thank you. Any questions from any other council members? How about from the public? Any, Brandon?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Chief, is that 40 hours every 2 years?
We are required a minimum of 40 hours of training every 2 years, and some of that includes firearms, domestic violence, mental health, and then some other ones that aren't required. But yes, we have to have a minimum of 40 hours every 2 years.
Any additional questions from the audience?
Can I just shout? The items that show up as moved, can you explain that to us? Because that's probably going to come up again and again.
I can explain that. So if you look at these items.
Let's repeat the question. Sorry, Jody.
Yep.
The question from the audience was, there's items on this budget that show as moved.
So all these that are showed as moved, these are ones associated with the animal shelter and the animal control. So that is moving them from our budget into their own personal budget as of this year.
All right, any other questions? Okay, continuing. Dispatch is the next item on our agenda. Of course, that's a joint.
I thought I was done. I forgot.
You don't get off that easy, Chief. Dispatch is an item that's jointly funded by the City of Sturgis, the City of Faith, the City of Somerset, and of course Meade County. So the city does not have a ton of input. It just basically pays a portion of what the true costs are for dispatch, correct?
That's correct. We share 40% of that budget yearly, and that's based on usage.
And we've actually, I mean, if you look at where we've landed, we've seen some cuts. We budgeted $182,000 for dispatch in 2024, but we've pulled that back to $75,000, and that's, $175,000. And the reasoning is we're being a little tighter to the actual amount billed, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think we're trying to get, like you said, actual cost and get away from having a little bit of a slush fund built up there, but to make sure we got accurate cost and to save where we can.
Thank you. That's important, and that's an important comment about how we're approaching the budget. We are trying to do the best we can about budgeting for what is and not what if. If we have the money in our reserves, in our contingency funds, the council's able to make actions on every budget, and hopefully as we go forward, we find ourselves with increased revenues in 2025 in several categories, and I guess that's a thing that I didn't mention, but in the animal shelter budget, there was some discussion about some contractual changes with the county potentially coming, and that might end up with some additional funding that comes into that animal shelter budget, and that's good, cooperating with other other government agencies and showing good leadership. Thanks.
Yeah, we have we got one current current contract, and that's with Somerset. We've actually been in contract with them, I think, 2 years now, and I think it's a good partnership. And Meade County has been in discussions with us as well for some cost sharing.
Good. Well, hopefully those come together and everybody is happy with where that lands. Is there any other questions on the dispatch budget? Again, that's a joint funded piece. Any questions from the audience? Okay, Jody, I think that's it for you.
Is there a buildings one on the other two, Kevin? I'm sorry.
Buildings,
Yeah, did we have a buildings budget?
we did buildings, was it 1 or 2 meetings ago?
Okay, I was just checking with law enforcement building with the contract. I didn't know if there was anything that needed to be brought up there.
Well, there certainly is. Thanks for the reminder. We are part owners of the law enforcement building. The city of Sturgis owns 20% of that building. And that building has had a roof issue since it was built. It was a construction issue that due to contractors going out of business and other extenuating circumstances, since 1994 has had a roof that's leaked. And the county commissioners are in a position with their finances that they are going to replace that roof. They have sent that roof to bid or request for proposals, and it's anticipated that that's going to be somewhere around $50,000 for the city of Sturgis that we'll have to pay in 2025, which is our 20% of that project. Of course, we won't know exactly until they open and award the contract, but that's a piece that comes out of our joint tenant ownership of the law enforcement center. Is that it?
I'm good if you guys are good.
Thank you, Jody. Next budget to discuss is our fire department. We've got our fire chief, Scott Lensengrav.
Good evening.
Good evening, Scott. Thanks for coming tonight.
Yep. As we went over, like Jody said, we made cuts, and I guess if you guys have any questions concerning those cuts, took out a lot of our training and stuff like that, so.
You've managed, you kind of talked about being able to maintain that through train the trainer and in-house trainings.
Yeah, like, we have an obligation of 24 hours of training, trying to get to all of our individuals every year. And in order for us to have a state notified training, we gotta have a state qualified trainer. So, like I said, the one thing we did keep in our budget was the instructor conference stuff, so we can keep everybody up and going with their certification, so,
Keep our instructors able to train the rest of our team.
yeah. So, put a lot of on our shoulders to keep everybody trained up, so.
Gotcha. Well, I know every one of these, it's tough to have these discussions. I think everyone can appreciate the job that's being done and the fact that you're being quite a team player and trying to come up with a way to carve out $24,000 out of your budget, and that is appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
And your confidence that you're going to be able to maintain your level of service is important as well.
Yeah, and like was spoken earlier, we did take stuff out that we can get by with for a year or two. Like a lot of our equipment testing and stuff like that, like our SCBA bottles need to be tested every 5 years, and our air compressor and breathing air has got to be tested, and we're setting those aside because we just got them tested, so hopefully in a couple years we can get it back. So trying to play well with everybody else also.
Yeah, definitely. I think you also indicated that some of that equipment was fairly new and wasn't coming up on that 5-year testing cycle.
Yeah, not yet. We're getting close.
We're getting close,
I said within a year or two, we'll be
within a year or two.
we'll be at that aspect. So, and like cutting my equipment budget too for bunker gear. We're sitting pretty good right now. All that stuff's got to be replaced every 10 years. So, about 2026 is when I'm gonna have to start replacing everything again. And we got that. We put that in place to help offset some of the costs that we incur when we replace our bunker gear. So.
Yeah, that's important
12,000.
safety gear for the,
12,000 looks like a lot, but that barely covers 3 sets of gear, so, and we have 40 firefighters that serve this community, so, volunteers.
the rollout of that. Is that all in 1 year? Is that, is
No, it's,
the expiration dates on those at different times?
they're at different times, we've got them staggered out, so, it's gonna start again about 26, so.
Yeah, that's good management. Thank you. Any questions for Scott from the discussion on the fire department budget? Nothing from the council. How about from the audience? Any questions or comments on the fire department budget? Bonnie?
Am I reading this right, that the salary's going? Am I reading this right, that Scott's salary is going from 17 to 10?
See, that's shared between the ambulance and the fire department for a maintenance person, which I take care of the fire apparatus and ambulances. And it was misconstruing over the last few years. We tried to get it right, and they still left it the way it was. The actual sharing part of it was only 10,454. So that extra 7,000 was extra money in there.
So you're working to try and be a little more accurate with the budgeting process.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So.
Good question, Bonnie.
I thought he was being heroic.
Well, I kind of am.
Yeah. The whole team, the fire department. Any additional questions about the fire department budget as we're discussing for 2025?
I'd like to ask, at one point you said that there was a difficulty with the roof on the building. Is that,
Yeah.
is that gonna be taken care of, or?
No idea. We're still waiting to hear back from the city. There was a hailstorm years ago that was claimed, and the roof was never fixed, and our roof leaks. We've got some mold up in the roof, and so it's dry until it rains or snows.
It only leaks when it rains?
Only leaks when it rains or snows, so yeah, that'd be a nice something to look into.
Well, Jim, that,
There wasn't?
I don't think there was,
Oh.
That was back in Ron Cohn's time. Yeah, so.
and that's not the only roof that, I mean, we talked about the law center earlier, but the community center roof is also in a compromised position, and there actually has been a partial claim at least made on that.
So, yeah, like I said, I believe that hailstorm was back in Ron Cohn's time, 3 chiefs ago, so.
You mentioned mold. Have you ever actually done testing to understand what that issue is?
We haven't got that test yet, but the insulation's turning different colors, so
Hopefully it's bleaching out.
it's going the other way. So, yeah, no, we've been waiting to hear about that, so.
Okay, well, that's something that, I mean, we should be testing to make sure that we have good environmental quality there.
We thought we were gonna have a group come up and take a look at the damage and stuff like that, but nobody's ever showed up to my knowledge yet, so.
So I can speak to that. We did have Gustafson Builders did go up and get up on the roof and take a look at it. What they gave us some options of what we would need to do to fix it. I don't, from what they indicated, they didn't say that there was any hail damage, but there was some leaking around the caulking dries up around the screws and whatnot, and that's what they felt where the leaks were coming from. We don't have an open insurance claim on that roof. What happens if a claim's made, we receive part of the money, and then they won't close it out until the repairs are done. So I don't know what happened, why or when, but it does not appear there was ever an insurance claim made on that roof. So, but we did have Gustafson did come up and take a look at it, and give us some options of what they thought. And basically they said the roof needs to be replaced. So,
And we did talk about that a bit, and I think there was possibly some idea that we might not be able to stop all the leakage, but maybe we could Band-Aid some areas to carry us through for a bit.
right.
Anything else for the fire? Thank you, Scott. Finance is the next item that's on our budget discussion. Ann, I know you haven't, you weren't sitting in that seat when this was originally developed. This was done by some of our former staff. In going through this, we've had extensive discussion about making sure that we had staff, in place to carry the finance office load, where they write all the checks for the city, manage all the contracts, collect our utility billing, do our elections, and it goes on and on.
On and on and on.
One of the items here was a new hire in a position that is currently empty but being backfilled by a rally and events staff member currently.
I was happy to see that, just because past history, we've had 4 employees up to 5 to handle the load. And I think that 4th person will be a plus.
Additionally, we've got, and we're not sure if it's adequate yet, but our 2024 audit is included in that. Our 2023 audit cost us a little bit more than what we had budgeted for. And some of the discussions to go along with some of the wages and some of the professional services that we've got going here is that we did look at adjusting the finance officer wage to a different number than what was included in this original budget, and it was agreed upon by the council, I think, at some point, 2 months ago now.
Okay,
And you've been okay with that, correct?
yes, yep. That looks good.
So while this has a number showing in the budget, when we do the budget assembly process on Wednesday, there's gonna be adjustments along the line in that.
Okay, yes. Did you discuss that? I know I wasn't there when you went through this. Did you discuss that wage, the finance officer wage at all?
We did.
Okay,
We did. And that wage was more in line with what we were historically paying.
right, and that's why I was wondering, because it was higher than what it's been. Do you feel like that is what needs to be there?
That's what, the number that's in there now is what was brought forward when there was some discussion about trying to go and hire nationwide
Right,
and hire a headhunting company.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that's what you were looking at, and you were agreeing with that.
Is there any other questions about the finance budget?
Is that the number you were, that one will be adjusted upon assembly of the,
Correct. The council, when we talked about that previously, it was, I believe it was at 85 was that number. Is that still your recollection, Ann?
Yes, yep. It is. Something I did notice in here too, Kevin, that could be cut is, the citizen serve license. We were given that when we were still doing the, rally licensing, and we don't do any of that anymore. They do it all upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So, that could probably be cut from this budget.
Citizen Serve is our online portal that we do building permits
For all
and
the
vendor
licensing,
licenses and all
yes.
those
Yep.
things.
It's for all the
So that's
licensing.
that's a license that you don't need in your office anymore?
Right.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else in this? And it wasn't that we ran without Ann, but, she had a family item to take care of and wasn't at our committee meeting.
Yeah, and Adam had done most of the cuts on this, and when I looked at it, I ran with it because there was no any place else to even try to cut anything. And the travel was the big one, is where we cut.
Okay,
Which that is okay because the state is now doing webinars, like for elections and annual reports, so we can get right online and do those. And as far as the finance officer school, you can get all the handouts. You can just call Municipal League and we can get those handouts. So that's not gonna be any problem at all.
yeah, full municipal accounting manual available from legislative audit.
Yep. Yeah, you can get almost everything online anymore.
And you don't feel like there's any continuing education or anything that's needed in that office for the coming year?
Well, I think we'll be okay for the year. There are some things that if I stick to the job, that I would want to, go to attend, probably more Cassell.
2026?
Yeah.
I think getting the most out of our software investment is important.
Right. And I know there are things that we aren't using, but, we're making, we're using it, but there are things there. If we just play, I think we could figure them out. But having that training would make that quicker.
Definitely. Just a kind of a quick update we do have a third-party CPA that's been working. They haven't been able to complete our reconciliation process, but you're making headway, aren't you?
Yes, we are. I'm emailing a whole bunch of stuff to them tomorrow, and then they should be able to hit it hard and get us numbers.
And they did say it was gonna be late November before they could really get going on that contract, so that's important as we're working into this budget as well, because we really don't know what we have for applied
Right.
cash, if any.
Right. Until those reconciliations are done, we won't know.
Have any other comments?
I don't. I think we're good.
Any questions from council? How about questions from the audience? All right, thank you. Within the budget package, there's actually two attached mayor and council budgets. Again, those were just what was supplied with the work that was done before Mayor Wilkerson resigned. Of note, in one of those was completely removing all expenditures for mayor and council on one budget, and another budget included keeping those in place. I think the payment to council is dependent on a person's position in life. I think in order to keep an active council, we have younger people that aren't. I'll pick on my my counselor here, Jim, that is retired and able to attend any meetings during any day. And we have council members like Nick here that is actively employed, and if he's going to make some of these committee meetings, he needs to leave work. It seems that to have an active and engaged and diverse council, we need to maintain some level of that. Does council have any input to that part of? Hearing nothing on that, there are some items that we made adjustments to within both of these budgets. One of them is not necessarily removal, but moving. Code Red is a piece that we had that has primarily been being used through some of our enterprise funds, and also through some negotiation, we've been able to cut that cost in half. So it was actually absorbed in a different place in our budget. We've made some adjustments, or we're talking about making some adjustments, and maybe this is one that'll generate some discussion from council and from the public, but we have a monthly newsletter, SIP, and help me with the acronym, can you? Sturgis Information Publication. That is going to be more of a, rather than a mailed out item, that's going to be an electronic newsletter. Would you like to make a comment on that?
Bernie, you, Sarah? I don't know. Is it on? Okay. The reason I'm saying no to that, the younger generation using the internet, all of that, they've got it down pat. There's those of us in the older generation that we at times we struggle with that. And having that mailed to us is really a godsend. So please consider that when you're making these choices, the dynamics of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie.
Bernie, I'd agree with that because of my age, the same as others in my age group. It would make it more difficult. One of the goals when I got on the council was to make the information, the things that are happening in the city, available as quickly as possible and as easily as possible for all the citizens. And that includes people that are older, that may not have understand things like not having audiobooks, for example. Anyway, so I will support that as we talk about it.
Okay, good. Continuing through some of the,
Can I say something?
yes,
Just so you know, the cost of mailing and printing is about $3,300 a month.
so that cost over 12 months is a $40,000 expense.
$3,300 a month, yeah.
Yeah, Bonnie.
Could that be an opt-in, opt-out sort of thing, that individuals who wanted to receive it by mail could, by request? I mean, that would cut it way down.
It probably would. My initial thought on that is do you opt out or do you opt in, and how do you manage that? How do you manage that list? That might be possibly difficult.
When you're talking about doing it electronically, are you talking about sending it electronically to all of your utility patrons, or are you talking about putting out there to go find?
Bonnie, the discussion has been to post it on the webpage and use our social media platforms to indicate that it was released and also provide it forward-facing.
So if it were an opt-in, it would be like the special request you have for some people who want to have the agenda sent to them. That would make it a really lean list, but that would reach the people who want to know and can't access electronically.
Well, it's a little bit different. I mean, we send the agenda still electronically. We don't
Right.
we don't email or provide printed copies of the agenda
Right.
currently.
But I'm just saying on an opt-in option, that would keep it really a really short list, I would think. But it would be an alternative for people to whom Bernie refers, who simply don't have the wherewithal or the access.
Deb, since you've been managing that, based on that question, is there any economy to scale, if you will, when we print these? If we print 1,000 of them, is it cheaper than if we print 500?
Yes. And the other thing is that it goes to everybody who is a utility customer. And so I can envision that a lot of them get tossed. So it might be good to, I'm not sure how I'd manage it, but yeah, if someone really wants it, they'd opt in, but that would be a nightmare to change out every month.
On the topic of the SIP, does council have any other input with that?
I just wonder how much expense there would be to trying to manage who's in and who's out to save, are we gonna be spending $15,000 to save 10? Spending 15 to manage this list, to me, it seems like it would be easier either just to do it or don't.
They could probably also go to city finance and have them print it for them too. I mean,
That seems like that might be kind of difficult for residents that needed that.
Yeah, you might have 1,000 people standing in line out here.
Well, I certainly support you going electronically with it, because I can't tell you how many friends I have who call me and ask me whether their garbage is going to be picked up or not. And you put it right there in the letter, and you send it to them, and they don't keep it long enough for the holiday to happen and them to know. So I think there is a waste factor going on there with the paper. And I'm certainly not asking for that to be perpetuated. I'm just trying to think how to accommodate those individuals who struggle to access.
Well, that's something, Jim. I mean,
And also, Kevin, like Deb says, it goes to the utilities, and I take a stack every month to Heritage Acres because they only have one utility bill. And I've heard the residents there appreciate getting a paper copy. They set them out for them to pick up in their meeting room or whatnot. So I have to piggyback with Jim, and I think that's something that we should continue to look at just for the population that doesn't have the access to online and whatnot. So, but like Jim said, continue discussion on that, and we'll go from there, I guess.
And you certainly know that the highest part of the cost is the mailing. And so maybe we could try for a time, ask maybe the grocery stores or something, if we could put them in a rack there, or something that could cut down on the costs of the mailing. That's the biggest cost. It's not the printing, so.
good point.
Also going back on that older generation, there's a lot of them that can't leave their house on their own either too. So that's the hard part, is how do you get it to them if they're not going to the grocery store or.
Yeah. So the comment is that many of the people that would request or would use the printed copies are not able to leave their homes as readily to collect them. One other item could be maybe not sending it out monthly. Maybe it's bi-monthly, maybe it's quarterly. Uh-oh, Steve was standing there and now he sat down. Was that your idea? Thanks for telegraphing it.
I mean, it could still be online every month, but
Send it out by mail less often? Is there a component of that that works?
I just want to say something. We basically did this in Whitewood with the chamber. We gave everyone notice that we were going to save money and we were going to do it online. And then for those people that ultimately needed it mailed to them, we took a list and we can mail them out. And then we have distribution points, a couple different points in the town for people to pick them up. But we've saved tremendous amount of money. That's how we did it. I don't know if you guys want to kind of take that into consideration, but we do have the people that aren't able to get it. We do mail them out.
So a comment by the audience indicating that in Whitewood that they've successfully managed an opt-in mailing list.
It was for our chamber newsletter, and it cost so much doing it quarterly, and now that we do it online and have the limited distribution points for people to mail it to, we're able to do it monthly now rather than quarterly, and we saved a tremendous amount of money. But yeah, there is the older generation that needs it, so we took that into consideration. We can mail them out, we don't have to distribution points. People want to have copies.
Okay, good discussion. Get to Wednesday, that's one of the items that we need to address.
Can we look at just what it would take to, I mean, initially it's gonna be a lot of work, but moving forward, when people sign up for a utility, is there a way to, maybe there's a form that they sign or check or fill out saying they want it, they don't want it?
I mean, would it be the same as like an online statement versus mailing the paper statement as you usually do? Yeah, yes, I think if I agree with doing the distribution spots and then mailing. I think if that list gets small enough that it could be manageable.
do you have a paper application when they sign up for a utility?
We can, yeah. Oh, when they sign up. Yes, and we can make up a form.
Could we mail an application with the SIP?
Oh, that's a good idea. I think that would work.
Add that as a page to the SIP. We could do the online registration, potential, yeah, and the mail-in.
Yep, do the explanation and have them get it back to us, or we can explain, we might want to come up with the distribution places, let them know that's where they're going to be, and if they're not able to get to any of those places, then if they want it mailed, we could mail it to them.
Mr. Mayor, I think one thing, even though we may have financial issues right now that are unrelated, the people in the audience weren't responsible for the issues, but the fact is the city has an obligation for transparency, which is something we're trying very hard to do, and we're spending money doing other things. And if $40,000 a year is the cost of being transparent, I think that needs to be taken into consideration. I know I know it's one of the things we'll have to discuss on Wednesday when we're putting the final budget together, but I think that's a very important thing to take into consideration, that when I came on the council, my problem was the fact that I couldn't get answers. It's my responsibility, but if you've taken away one of the ways, that's not good either. And so I think that that's very important, that $40,000 that we're spending is a means of communicating to the people that are paying the property tax and spending money for sales tax and shopping in town. I think those are important things, not to be taken for granted.
Good comments, Jim. Transparency is definitely a goal of mine, and I think everyone that sits on the council here, and a desire of the public. We've got some work to do on that. Bonnie?
I just wanted to say that this is good discussion, and that clearly I think There are affordable solutions to getting the word out. And so you're going to have to do what you have to do as far as the financial allotments for things. But I think we're resourceful enough and smart enough to figure out ways to get the job done within whatever limits you have to set in the budget. And I think these are good ideas, but we don't have to solve the problem here. We have to solve the problem of financing and funding. And I agree with Jim, we have to be careful that we don't give up our commitment to visibility and transparency, but at the same time, I think we can be really resourceful. I mean, honestly, if it's a financial burden, if it's a time burden, I would volunteer one day a month to come in and send out to the people who can't access it online. I think that we have a strong spirit of volunteerism in this community that we don't tap into as we could and should. So I think you have to do the hard job of deciding how much we have to spend on it, and I think we have to do the creative thinking about how to get the job done in that amount of money.
Thank you, Bonnie. So continuing on, there are several items in these examples of mayor and council budgets that include some contractual obligations. For example, some of the utilities that the council has pledged for the food pantry, and some others that factor in a little bit more. Example, the work that we get from Black Hills Council, the local governments, those funds net us far more in return in the work that they do for us for administering grants and loans. Like, for example, they're the originator of our SRF loans. And are they not, Rick? It's on their project list.
They're not the administrator. Dorsey, we hire them but they do work on it.
They help us get the applications done.
What's SRF?
State Revolving Loan Fund. We use SRF loans often for infrastructure upgrades. In fact, not to bring up a point of contention on that, but that's where some of our utility surcharge comes from, is SRF loans and the requirements that come from those.
You know me, I just forget the nicknames.
Acronyms sometimes are hard. Yeah, me too. We do have some questions, Council. There is still in both of these budgets $4,500 for Christmas party and other things. I mean, I certainly enjoy Christmas myself, but I'm not sure that when we're asking all these departments to make these tough choices, that that is a good spend. Is there agreement?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Anybody have a comment from that, from the audience?
I would bake you cookies.
We would appreciate that, as long as you've kneaded the dough enough.
And I would, for sure,
A few other items fit heavily into our community: the Sturgis area transportation, Prairie Hills Transit. That's shown as a funding as their ask. That hauls many people in our community, throughout the community. Some to appointments, some just to help me with the heritage. Where we have the lunch. I apologize, I'm drawing a blank. Tony, where are you taking the Heritage Acres? There we go. They do a lunch that I know members of our community use to access meals there, as well as get to our senior center, other appointments. Within this budget, there is no mayor and council giving, which unfortunately has a trickle-down effect. because those funds aren't available then to be distributed elsewhere. But in a first pass, it seems prudent to try and remove those and add those back in. Now, we do have some additional funding opportunities as we wade into some of the rally-related items. For example, we had heavy discussion on our last meeting about funding that comes from the sale of the rally event cups, that where the cups don't cost the city any monies. So we're going to have to work to try and figure out some of those pieces. One of the big items that is still also in that is the budget here showed a personnel cut. I believe that there's a opportunity for that position to be absorbed into other spots, but we don't have that spot. We have some projected retirements and staff adjustments in other areas that might help us with that. But I think we're going to have to see what our bottom line is when we come out the other side. But I believe that there is, myself, an opportunity to capitalize on the skill sets there, but maybe in a slightly different position. Any comments on that? How about from the audience?
You lost me. Would you be more specific, please?
Specifically, in both of these budgets, our communications director, and this is first pass, this was done by former Mayor Wilkerson. Deb Holland's position as Director of Communication was not funded.
Is this when we wail at the wall? I mean, I have seen such a difference in the way what we're doing is presented, the way what is going on in the community is out there. And I, for one of many, would be really regretful to see Deb's position not in there. And I know there was talk earlier about making departments responsible for their own announcements, but I think what Deb does for us is a very special skill set. And not everybody has that. And just because you know the facts doesn't mean you can get them out there in a way that they connect with the community and garner the response that you want. And so I speak not just for myself, but there is a cadre of us who very much want to see Deb kept with us if there's any way possible to do that. What she does is really valuable to this community.
Bonnie, I think that factors into what Councilor Thompson mentioned about transparency and communication, and it is important to maintain some pieces on that. I think every single department has heard the comment when we've been in committee about doing more with less, doing more for less, and I think that's what we're trying to manage, is that not that Deb has extra bandwidth exactly, but I think we have opportunity to capitalize that and use it in other ways as well within our operations, and again without carrying all the load with that goes with that. Does that make sense? No?
Partly.
Partly?
I'm kind of with you, but not entirely clear. But I also understand that right now in this process that you're doing, clarity isn't necessarily in reach. Just know how we feel about that. And I know you have to do your considerations on down the line, but just know how we feel about that. And we need your skills.
I'm committed to try and make sure that position continues.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments on that?
I'm in agreement, Bonnie, to piggyback on what Mayor is saying here. The skill set that Deb has is something that I am not interested in losing. It may not look like the job she's currently in right now, but it may end up spreading across multiple departments, or some new position might be formed. We're not sure, but I'm committed also to keeping that skill set and that talent here.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with redefining. It's just that I'm no longer going after typos and poor grammar and waking people up in the cemetery to see if they still want their plot.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on anything that we haven't already covered on the mayor and council budget? I think we've got plenty of work to do in that area. No more comments? Thank you. We have the Downtown Foundation, the bid. That's really a pass-through budget. There's been adjustments made to that budget in the past. We did not just take the normal means of finance for that, which is a special assessment for the businesses within that improvement district, and passing it through onto that board, but we also put sales tax monies in there. Those have been transferred to other spots in our budget in hopes of being more transparent on rallying events. And of course, we talked about that at our last meeting. And not to keep deferring to our heavy lift on Wednesday, but the Legal and Finance Committee better plan on spending the entire day. And so this budget is only, as it's listed here, including just the funds that come from the special assessment and are provided to the bid board, and they use it to provide improvements in the community through the board. It's monies that only come from the members or the businesses in that area, and it's over and above their property taxes. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I just ask about that side where it says move to events budget in GF? I've had several people ask me what's the GF.
General fund.
Well, that's what I thought, but I didn't know for sure. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Question was, well, I guess you heard, you had the microphone. Thank you, Bonnie. All right, any further questions on the bid? Next on our discussion is our ever so important ambulance service. I think we got lots of people in the audience here tonight. Hi,
Thank
Sean.
you, Council. As we all know, the ambulance budget is not the normal budget everyone else has because of our enterprising budget. I'd first like to just read something to you guys to sort of give some background on education and that of the service. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my sincerest apologies on behalf of the Sturgis Ambulance Service and myself. It was never our intention to cause any discomfort or give the council a black eye through the recent fundraising efforts. Our sole motivation was to ensure the critical services provided to our community would remain intact and the education opportunities would be available to staff to expand their knowledge despite the challenges we face. We wanted to be proactive in helping the whole community out to bridge the gaps and ensure that no vital aspects of our operation would need to be cut. Standing behind me are the dedicated members of the Sturgis Ambulance. When I met with the first round and they said we needed to cut some things, I called the crew and I'm like, okay guys, we need to come together. What can we do as a crew to make these cuts? I didn't want to be saying, okay, I'm going to cut your standby, I'm going to do this. And these individuals behind, as you're looking down on our wages, you will see that standby was cut out 2 years ago. The crews have come together through that time and made difference in the wages from the 8 to 4 shift, holiday pay, etc., so we could make sure standby was covered. The crew has agreed to cut their standby wage in half for the next year or so to $50 a night to try to make that there. The importance of that standby crew is if our first crew is on a transfer to Rapid, we have a cardiac arrest in town, we don't have anyone to respond. And that, to me, is super important. To add another crew on would be extraordinary cost to the city and something I don't think we'd want to face. So that was one of the things we came up with. Over the past few weeks, I've had conversation with transition team, legal and finance, community members, and have been asked questions that made me realize something I've long taken for granted. The assumption that people fully understand the scope of what we do. It's clear that sharing more information, both with you as a council, the community, everyone, is needed, and it's vital. I've had questions given to me, what is BLS and ALS? Why is ALS so important? Could we get by with some BLS? The answer is absolutely not. ALS is the difference between life and death. Dr. Lewis, our medical director, is here to speak on behalf of that also. ALS can be the difference between an individual getting to the balloon when they're having a heart attack, stroke, that getting to cath lab. That would not be possible without our ALS crews. And that's something back in 2009 we did not have. We had BLS crews. When I came here, we had 1 or 2 paramedics that would work PRN. And it honestly means the difference between life and death. Dr. Lewis called me today and asked if I would look up the amount of transfers from Sturgis Hospital to Rapid City that are ALS compared to BLS. 97.68% of the transfers going out of Sturgis are ALS.
Sean, I may be the only one that doesn't know, but you're saying ALS and BLS. What does that mean?
Sorry, I meant to explain that to you, Jim. Sorry. BLS is basic life support. It's provided by our EMTs. It includes fundamental interventions such as CPR, oxygen administration, basic airway management, immobilization of injuries. Our ALS means paramedics on shift, and we currently have some AEMTs on shift. They can administer life-saving medication to get your heart going, for pain medication, advanced airway management, monitoring and interpreting EKGs. This is important when you have someone having a heart attack. If our in the field paramedics cannot get that 12 lead and see someone's having an active STEMI, we're prolonging that time that they can get to cath lab because they cannot do it. A basic life support person cannot do that. And we cannot call ahead to the hospital, and the hospital cannot have everything ready for them. Managing critical trauma and medical emergencies. ALS care is often deciding factors in life and death situations. It honestly is. And when we talk about intercepts too, for ALS, I know that's been brought up, is we intercept with other agencies. We are the only ALS agency from here to the North Dakota border, unless you go east to Faith or west to Belfouche. So, I mean, it's very important we keep those supplies and that on our ambulance. And I don't think a lot of the community and stuff realizes the difference, just like you didn't, Jim, that it would do if we had to cut back for those things. I talked about that. And if we wanted to just go down some of the cuts that we talked about and reimbursement and that. When I met with Legal and Finance on Wednesday, we talked about the income. There's nothing we really can do. I mean, we're gonna, as a crew, start making calls to try to get insurance. I made 2 calls this last week to different collection agencies or medical collection agencies that can maybe work on them. They're quite a bit higher than our current collection agency, but they're also medical. So that is something I will present to you in the future. We have worked with Lifelight and Mark Air. We've got contracts now with them. Prior to this, we've been transporting them from the airport in for free. So that's gonna add a little bit more income into that reimbursement. It's not a lot, but it's something. I don't think a lot of the public, and I think all the council probably realizes this, when our ambulance goes out, if we do not transport that patient, we get $0.
Sean, I don't think the mic's on. There you go.
If our ambulance goes out and we do not transport that patient, we get $0. In 2023, we had 2,182 calls for assistance. 951 of them were non-transports. That means 951 times we got $0. And we incurred labor costs, wear and tear on our ambulance, mileage. Some of those calls were up to 30 miles out. So, I mean, that's all stuff that has to be factored into this with no income in. We have the jail contract, which we're currently renegotiating. The hospital contract that I'm working with Angie to renegotiate that. Lawrence County and the Meade County Tax District. Under our wages, are changing our standby to $50 a night per person. That should cut that in half. We're going to start covering one 8 to 4 position by one of the office people. The only thing with that is you're taking that person away from billing, from calling on appeals and that. The insurance, I did give it out to public or to legal and finance. There's no way to change until Medicare comes out with their cost reporting, and Medicaid, we can get the Medicaid supplemental payment in place in South Dakota. Until then, I don't know what we can do on insurance. I'm open to any suggestions. We've worked with Blue Cross and all of those, but we only can collect what we can collect on those. Supplies was something we talked a lot about. Each ambulance is equipped with about $325,000 worth of supplies. And yes, a lot of them are ALS supplies, but they're needed supplies. The ET tubes, we need them that many. When you're out in the field, things happen and you need all those supplies between difference of life and death. And I don't know how we can change that. We did just recently get a grant to implement an inventory system to try to watch the expiration and try to see if, okay, we've got 7.5 ET tubes expiring this year. Get a hold of Faith, say, hey, do you need any? And get a hold of some places to see if we can get some of that out. So buying single compared to cases is about triple, is what we looked into. So you just never know when you're going to use them. You can go 6 months and never use an ET tube, which is the airway tube for someone. And then the next month you can use them 3 times in a week.
Sean, do you think that most people here understand that you get nothing if you don't transport?
No, I do not. I don't think the public across the state understands that. I think everyone believes that an ambulance is just like a taxi. If you call for it, you pay for it. And that is not the case, unfortunately.
Do you have difficulty with insurance companies if you do, in fact, take someone to the hospital, for example?
Yes, we do. The thing we're running into now is medically necessary. It says right in Blue Cross, Medicare, Humana, that if they could have got to the hospital by another means of transportation safely, that it is not covered. I would say that probably 10 to 15% of our VA transfers right now are coming back as not medically necessary. That's why our interfacility transports are most important for our agency, because they are medically necessary. A doctor has ordered them.
Somehow it seems like if we need to talk to our people in Washington as well as people in Pierre, there's only so much the state may be able to do, but even the state isn't helping you much.
No. Where we are not essential, like fire and police, we don't get any assistance there. We have tried. There is a bill in front of Congress right now in Washington. I believe I sent it out to you guys about a month ago or two. I think Jody did also, as a treatment in place. But right now it's not going anywhere because the insurance companies are fighting it. Because, I mean, they're just like everybody else. If they don't have to pay for something, they're not going to. So, supplies, we talked about that. We did meet with the hospital this last week after legal and finance. We are going to use their bedding from now on, and they're going to wash it for us. This will save us close to $6,000 a year just in the bedding. So that's a huge savings for us, and we appreciate Monument doing that for us. There will be a couple times we'll end up using the throwaway because Monument in Sturgis is the only one doing it. So if we ended up having a couple transports to the VA or something, we didn't have enough of the extra bedding in our ambulance, we might have to use a throwaway. But I've got enough backup now because I just purchased it before this happened that we'll get by easily with that. Working with the state on supplies, I just spoke to them today. We're going to work on getting most of our office supplies from them. And like our BVMs, our syringes, all that kind of stuff. So that should cut down on supplies. Our training was completely removed. This is something that's mandatory yearly for our staff. We're going to work on trying to figure out how to incorporate that, if it's with fundraising to get that back in or something. In the handout I gave to legal and finance, I have the set hours everyone needs. I went through so much information, I'm sorry, it's around 50 hours down to 24 hours for EMTs. And that's every 2 years, except for our state license is yearly. So that's something that we've really pushed through the fundraising, is to try to get some of those hours. We have a great committee that works on training within the service. They try to get all the hours they can. We have three instructor coordinators through the state that can set classes up and stuff. We're one of the few, we are the only, and there's only 2 within South Dakota, NAEMT education facilities, so we're going to look at giving more of those classes. That will give us training in-house and not having to travel for that. So, and hopefully bring other people in that will bring money in to cover the training as a whole. Under utilities, we have the internet on our iPads. That's a must for reports in that. We have cut all unnecessary utilities, one extra phone line, so we only have 2. There's never any 3 people that need to be on the phone at one time. We've cut cable TV. I do not have a cell phone. I think we're one of the few departments that we don't have a cell phone, and that is fine. I'd rather the education or something else go in there. We have cut out uniforms. That's something that has been brought up, though. We need that. There was concern about that and that we should add that back in. Professional fees is our email, which is HIPAA compliant. Kevin thought he could look into the city server and see if we could make that HIPAA compliant, I believe, that we talked about. Also, Dr. Lewis, as our medical director, she has said she would go this next year without payment for being our medical director. At Legal and Finance, it was discussed, and they did not feel that was something that should be cut. She is a great resource for us and something that is mandated by the state, once again, that we do have her. So, but that is, she understands the importance of all the other things. So she's willing to take that cut. When we went through it, this isn't the accurate one in front of you. Kevin and Ruth and Jim and Jody and Rick and I discussed the fuel. We are getting a fleet card. So when we do go on long distance transfers, we don't pay taxes on those. We're going to work on, we cut the oil changes down. There was quite a bit of extra in there for an oil change. Scott does all of our oil changes for us, so the wage is already included in that. And
I hope everybody's not in here right now. Obviously, somebody's driving.
we took the unused vacation out of there. Can you think of anything else, Kevin, that we cut out?
Sean, we've made tons of adjustments. I guess first off, I want to praise you for working openly on many of these things. I do want to address the part that we talked about in the beginning about the black eye, if you will. This is an enterprise fund. I mean, it's supposed to run as a business, but obviously ambulance is not a good business. It's hard to support itself, and things. I mean, it's not good to read that we're raising money to buy uniforms or to complete trainings. So that certainly was not the case that anyone was trying to be rough on the fact. But the reasons we're raising monies is to try and hold up the entire program.
Right.
And not just those pieces. I think you've embraced the fact that stepping back and taking a look at all of our expenses. I mean, that we need to make sure that we're covering the what is and not the what ifs, and you've done that. I think some of our discussions is that you could end up with maybe $28,000 more extra dollars out of the jail, the Meade County Jail, on some work that's there. We're certainly talking about looking at the Lawrence County contract, where right now we get $1,300 a year to cover all the way to the Camp 5 Road. Many people might not know where that is, up Highway 14A towards Deadwood, but that includes all the homes in the golf course area. And to put that into perspective, each home in our rural ambulance has pays $100
$70,
or $70.
Yep.
Excuse me.
75.
And $150 for businesses. And so, you do the math, we're definitely.
And we figured there was about 300 homes up there that might be short of few or long.
And there is work that we can do on that. I mean, those are the sorts of things, along with trying to raise revenue. You've taken a look at different pieces, and obviously we need to keep Dr. Lewis on board. Legal and Finance did bring that forward. We definitely appreciate her dedication to trying to keep this important service, medical service, available not just in our community but in the adjoining areas and whatnot. And that you were open to, look at profit and loss on all the transfers, where we go. I mean, it's also an important piece, but understanding every piece of that helps the council.
Yeah, and I do apologize. Like I said earlier, I just took it for granted everybody understood, what we were paid for. And when we do transport, it is only loaded miles. Meaning if we go out 60 miles and pick up a patient, we don't get paid the 60 miles out there, only the 60 miles back. Mm-hmm. So it is only loaded miles, no matter what.
That does show good management negotiations. I mean, dollars make hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars, and what you've been able to work with for Monument on the bedding, it's saving $6,000. I mean, that certainly helps. We're going to be going through, there was 2 different transfers to the ambulance budget that was part of the mayor and council piece. One was $350,000. The other was
420 or 4 something.
400 and some odd, 450 was it maybe? Anyway,
We talked about
You know,
taking that
along
out.
along with the admin pieces, I mean, the city, I think, is committed to try and make sure that we get where we need to be on this, provide the services that our residents depend on, and keep moving forward. And I think you're showing that that you're willing to be part of that process.
And it's not just me, it's the whole crew. We're willing to do whatever we need to do.
Yeah,
And-
the fact that they're talking about figuring out opportunities to collect more. I mean, that shows how strong your crew is, and it's certainly appreciated. With that, you have come forward with a budget that is about $110,000 less than the year before, and you've done a lot of big strides in.
And I believe we cut even more.
We
off.
cut even more. I'm going off of what was here.
The
I mean, you've
original
done
one,
more
yep.
than that. I think one of the things that also needs to be pointed out is you've made some adjustments in scheduling that took the budgeted overtime to a much different number.
We dropped that over $100,000.
And I mean, that's how we're going to keep this alive, as we hope and pray that from the federal level, from the state level, EMS becomes a mandated service, and we figure out more and better ways to pay these bills.
Yeah. And I mean, we're always open to suggestions. We really are. I just sent two fundraisers the crew wants to start to Ruth and Jody this morning or last night. I mean, we're willing to do anything as a crew to make sure we keep the shifts we have, the care we have, and get the education for the people. I don't know if you all read the weekly report. We did just get a grant for a free EMT class and a free AEMT class. It'll include all the wages for all my staff to put it on. It'll include the testing, the books, everything. So we will have 50 new EMTs and 20 new advanced EMTs in our community. So to me, that's huge.
I did read that in the report, and that's awesome. Good job. Also the training that you're talking about follows in with what the chief of police had indicated, that our team is only as strong as our weakest links, and train the trainer as a super way to make sure that we're passing on those great skills, and you're taking advantage of that as well. So
yeah, we're trying to do everything we can on training, and that's why we did the fundraiser, the flocking, so we could get some people, and the stuff they came back with, the techniques and stuff, were something that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And that's something my crew is always looking for. And I'm not saying that because there's something behind me. They're always looking for education and ways to improve. Dr. Lewis has been wonderful as a medical director. She's been active in trying to help us get new techniques, new things with the hospital.
mm-hmm. Really, we just need more people to pay their ambulance bill.
Exactly. And that's something else that I've been asked, well, why don't you send out bills to the patients, Medicare patients, Medicaid patients? And that's against the law, to bill them for what the insurance does not pay. It's mandatory write-off by federal. So that is why they are not billed anymore. They are only billed the $138 or the $210 if it's ALS emergency. And there's absolutely nothing I can do about that at all. So Monument also did a step forward to help us with transfers are not payable. Transfers to Rapid City, home, etc. Lee Deadwood's going to come down and do those that are not payable at all, and they're going to eat those. So Monument is also trying to help with that part.
And Monument is the ambulance service out of Deadwood is ran by Monument.
Correct. Yep, and that's why they're doing it. Ricky just wanted me to be aware of that. She's like, we're not taking transfers away from you. It's if someone has no money to pay, and we do require, if it's a long distance transfer or something, that they pay up front if they don't have insurance. That's something Rapid Fire does, everyone else does, and that's something we have incorporated. And it has caused some hard feelings and stuff, but, and also the CHW and Community Paramedic Program we're trying to get going, that will bring more money in to the area and cut down on the unnecessary calls. So,
Just a question that came to mind on long distance transfers, say,
Yep.
I don't think it happens often, but if you transfer far enough that you can't make the transfer in one push there and back, are you able to adjust your fee to include overnight lodging and
no, we are not.
those sorts of things? Is that by Medicare or Medicaid or?
It's just set, when you charge out for a Medicare or Medicaid transfer, it's just ALS, BLS, ALS emergency, BLS emergency. There's no other codes available there. You've got your level of care and then mileage. And
So-
there's no,
How does your team manage that? Do they push through on, on the long haul and don't?
when they're not able to get down and back. I will turn it, like I turned down a Casper, Wyoming transfer tonight. They called about 4 o'clock, I think it was, and wanted me to go to Casper tonight. And I told them no, because I knew my crew couldn't get over there and back. And also, if we did that, they would have to bring another person in. And the patient had Medicaid, not against Medicaid, but we wouldn't be covering our second crew in even.
Wouldn't be covering the expenses.
Right. So I do honestly try to look at all of those and try to balance it out and make sure that I'm making it. Our standby events, we do charge more than most ambulance services. We charge $200 an hour. But my thought behind that is we do not transport anybody from a standby event, so we do not have any income from that. And we have 2 people that are there. So, and we can't charge mileage or anything to go to those, so that's why I do that amount.
And I'm willing to bet that triage discussion that you have that's hard on you.
Yes, it is. I hate saying no to someone that I know needs to go somewhere, but I also know that I need an ambulance crew.
Is there any additional questions for Sean from the council?
I don't have any questions, but just a thank you for all the hours that you've put in the past couple of weeks of conversations with us, legal and finance, and just on council in general, of educating us, helping us understand the challenges the ambulance has so that we can all work together to find a solution to make things work. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, any other comments from council? How about from the public?
I'm Ashley. I'm one of the people that actually helped put on the one of the fundraisers this last year and try to make it a little bit more aware to our community. I came up with the YouTube video, When the Sirens Go Silent. This is not a full-time job for me, and actually, if I could have all of the crew members please stand up so that we can put it into perspective for you, who we are, the faces of who we are. And now to put it into perspective, will the ALS members please sit down? So this would be your BLS crew. Now, there's a few of us that aren't here today. In fact, I've got 2 people that are texting me on my phone watching this online right now. Those 2 members that are texting me are ALS as well. So without that ALS crew, there's not much that we can do to help you with it. To put it into more perspective, if you are an EMT or an advanced EMT, please sit down. Hi, I'm an EMR, and I'm your certified driver. I can take your vitals, that's about it. So, there's different levels of what we can do and different scopes of practice that we have to have each other to move on with a patient. It is important for us to be here, and the Bible tells us that we need to love thy neighbor. This is a job where we love thy neighbor. It's not a fun job. There's days where we don't like it. There's days where we go home and can't talk about it with our friends or our family members because of HIPAA. And there's days where we go home and think, why am I doing this and why am I alive? I've had a lot of friends that have passed from suicide. I know crew members that struggle with it. It's a very important thing, and this is not something that you can take away from a community. Our community needs to step up and realize who we are.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments?
Is Dr. Lewis here tonight? And where is she? Okay. Nice to meet you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Is there any additional comments? We appreciate the hard work that they're doing day in and day out for our ambulance service, and the hard work to try and make sure that we have a budget that can fit our community's ability to pay. And it shows that you're able to bridge that and cover both sides of that. Thank you.
Kevin, I've just I've managed and owned enough businesses that these are good things to say, but we need an action step, and I'm sure, Sean, you continue to lobby, but there needs to be an action step. I thought of that when you showed the film during the rally last year, that somebody has to take some responsibility at Congress, and that's maybe a little bit of a joke, but maybe we need somebody who can handle that. We're not the only city with the problem. Anybody that's got an ambulance and then people that need help, there needs to be something done. And I'm not sure, it's hard to assess all of that. I don't know who the people are.
There's ambulance services closing by the day across the United States. I mean, we've lost, I believe it's 6 in the last 2 years across South Dakota, and I don't think a lot of us realize that. When we drive across the state or go somewhere, we very easily are going through an area that there is not an ambulance there to respond if you wreck or have a medical emergency. And that's why I think it's so important that we keep our crews here.
I guess I can elaborate on that too. I'm also with the Newell Service Department as well, Butte County, and we travel all the way up to almost Riva. So there's no coverage up there. It's on us to do that. That's 60 miles of extra coverage we got to cover. I know we've come all the way down almost to Sturgis as well to help cover. I just had one of our ALS members just message me, and he just wanted to make sure that we clarify the billing for the community members. Just that it's a flat rate and not itemized, in case anybody has any questions on that, I guess, and if Sean.
What the ALS and BLS was meant.
So.
I think you're asking, what should the Senate do? I think it's what you guys should do.
Well, we're in a situation, let me ask this question. If someone needs help but can't afford it, are there any obligations that you have to do it? So that would seem to be the start of that. If there are laws that require you to take care of it, at some point there has to be, it isn't a free service. It may be free to the individual, but there's still costs, as you're well aware.
Right.
So when I say where do we start, all we can really do is talk about our ambulance and the people that work on that ambulance. But at some point, the law has to be changed. And I'm sure you've been talking about that, but if you can't get it done in Pierre, how do you get it done in Washington?
Right. And we have went to Pierre numerous times, talked to legislature, trying to get them to carry the bill to make us essential. No one wants to carry it because all the cities and counties and that are going to fight it because it's going to add a tax. And, when you're in politics, that's the last thing you want to say is tax. So, I mean, it's just like us saying Lawrence County, us responding up there, we've got to do something because we're using how much of our money to respond to their area. I think when Lisa pulled the report, it was 28 times we responded up there last year, and we had 12 transports.
At $200?
Huh? Yeah, if it were Medicaid, it was 248 for the ALS emergency and $4 a mile. $4.12 a mile.
It's maybe not it's budget discussion, but Jim, there are tools in place right now.
Yeah,
They call them ambulance districts, and they're not popular because it's a separate tax. And we do have some locally. I think Piedmont is the closest that I know of. Spearfish also has an ambulance district, do they not? Or is
No.
it just fire?
Just fire.
Oh.
Yeah, Meade County has rural Meade County Ambulance District, where our everyone outside of city limits pays the $75 a year. But that has to go through an election, and
It's not popular because it sets a separate tax.
I might be wrong, but I believe it was up for the city too, and it got voted down. Isn't that right? Wasn't the tax district up for city? Oh, it wasn't, okay. So I'm wrong there.
Yeah, well, everybody wants the very best that they can get, and not everybody wants to contribute to paying for it.
No. And you asked, Jim, if there's a law about us having to respond, and there is. There is a state law in place that if we have an ambulance license, we have to respond within 5 minutes, 96 or 97% of the time. So, and
It's state law?
yes. And it's not real popular for us to pull up on scene and ask for a credit card before we do CPR. People don't like that for some reason.
I guess I'd like to address too, I think our rural ambulance district does not cover though our entire county. It only goes how far east?
To the Belfish River.
From the Belfouche River to the Lawrence County line and mile marker 40 on Highway 79
Interstate.
on the interstate. So the Tilford area
Yep.
to the Butte County line.
And we do intercepts with Butte County because they are BLS, and we do charge $200 per intercept. So we do bring something in there.
Outstanding. Thank you. Is there any further discussion about our ambulance service budget? All right, I'd like to continue on to Sturgis Economic Development Court. SEDC has been a partner of the city's for an awful long time. We've had some discussions. We've had the same talking points about how we can foster our partnership for potentially more for less. I know it's hard to ask those things.
Okay.
You know, I appreciate, we've met twice in the last week. And I think we've come up with some ways that can help fill a need and potentially keep our partnership alive. A couple of our needs, an item that was brought forward maybe a couple of months ago, maybe it was a little bit longer than that, was our development or our TIF plan. We've got a forthcoming comprehensive plan update that leads to all kinds of different things. I mean, it provides the roadmap for the community going forward. And there's a whole lot of data that needs to be verified and collected before we get that. Of course, a strong comprehensive plan is what helps everyone apply for grants and go forward. I mean, there's lots of those pieces that factor into even the EMS and fire related police items that we're talking about. Certainly our Public Works Department and so on and so forth. Do you have any comments about, the ability to do some of these other items for us?
Sure. Well, do you mind if I prepared some information just to share with you and as well as the community just on a little bit about our organization, kind of why we exist, what we've done in the community, and then to that, kind of where we're going in the future. So my name is Amanda Anglin. I'm the Executive Director of the Sturgis Economic Development Corporation, and Paul Bisson, our Board Chairman, is here with me this evening. And so Sturgis Economic Development's Corporation's mission is to actively pursue economic development by assisting expanding our new business industry in housing in Sturgis and Meade County. Our vision is to be the driving force behind the responsible and sustainable development of our community, making Sturgis the premier center for business and industry. We achieve this by assisting local retail, commercial, and industrial businesses as well as entrepreneurial startups, attracting new job opportunities, facilitating the development of housing infrastructure, sites, and buildings, adopting a regional planning approach to promote sustainable growth. SEDC has been a cornerstone of economic development in Sturgis for 51 years. During this time, we have systematically developed the 45-acre Sturgis Industrial Park, which is now home to over 25 businesses employing more than 250 skilled and well-paid individuals. The Sturgis Industrial Park adds approximately $19.5 million to the overall valuation of the city of Sturgis, generating nearly $300,000 in annual property taxes for the city, county, and school district. Beyond the industrial park, SCDC has played a significant role in the creation and retention of countless other jobs, along with various projects throughout the community. Those projects include Aspen Grove Assisted Living, Dolan Creek Estates, Sierra Vista Apartments, Canyon View Estates, Dolan Creek Senior Living, Trailhead Subdivision, Wildflower Estates, Little Promises Daycare, the cleanup of the Exit 32 property, Domino's, Waring Ford, or formerly Scott Peterson Motors, Indian Motorcycle, Big D Arby's Gas Station, Jake's Collision Repair, Scooptown Car Wash, Sturgis Brewing Company, Belle Jolie Winery and Sparkling House, and Sturgis Strikers Bowling Alley, among many others. These projects collectively contribute approximately $79 million to the city of Sturgis's overall valuation, generating nearly $882,000 in annual property taxes for the city, county, and school district. The housing developments that I've mentioned have added approximately 260 units. Our organization provides technical assistance, educational support, and financial guidance to help businesses succeed. We offer assistance in locating properties, providing loan funds, and navigating business challenges. Additionally, we actively market the community to encourage business development and investment. In the past year alone, we have sold properties to 3 new businesses and constructed a building, all of which are now open and contributing to the local economy through increased property and sales taxes. SEDC's efforts directly benefit the city of Sturgis by increasing the tax base and creating job opportunities. Our work generates revenue for the city through property and sales tax, which helps sustain and grow our community. Looking ahead, we remain focused on advancing development at the Exit 32 property, filling vacancies in the industrial park, and implementing the initiatives outlined in our updated 3-year strategic plan. This plan was recently developed during our annual board retreat, and we plan to focus on attracting new businesses, supporting entrepreneurs, addressing housing challenges, fostering infrastructure development, advocating for the community, and enhancing storytelling and marketing efforts. Once we finalize this information, I will share it with the council at a upcoming meeting. We fully recognize the need for budget adjustments, and through our partnership, we are committed to helping fill the gaps and support the city wherever possible. So I think Paul wants to talk a little bit about some of the things that you mentioned, Kevin, those maybe added duties that we could potentially assist the city with.
One thing I'd like to start with before we talk about that is commending the presenters, the presenters prior to us and their willingness to make adjustments for the city. I've been part of this community 33 years, and it's this community never ceases to amaze me what they can do when they put their mind to it. Another example of that is Festival of Trees Friday night. It could have been brought up at the announcements and praise section, but nearly $58,000 was raised Friday night. That's all going to be put back into the community, and it's all because of the big heart that the individuals in this community have. SEDC is no different. As Amanda mentioned, we're willing to do our part. We've had a great partnership with the city, accomplished a lot of things that Amanda mentioned. We wouldn't have been able to do that without that partnership with the city, and we're going to return that favor by doing our part and doing more for less, as you mentioned. Some of those things we talked about is to assist the city with updating the comprehensive plan. This was originated in 2010 as a 20-year plan, but there are responsibilities. No plan is set in stone. It's a moving, living document that needs to be updated from time to time. And we're willing to do what we can to help the city update that and keep that current and make it viable. The TIF districts have been an integral part of some of those projects that we've worked on. And we believe that it can be refined, the process can be refined, and it's in our best interest as well as the city that we help the city refine that process, the application process. And one of the things that can help with that once that process is in place is for us to be the point person for developers that are interested in that TIF district or other developments, where we can guide them through the process along with the process that's written down, but make sure they're talking to the right people, making sure that the individuals that they need to contact are replying to them and moving the process along. We don't want to be known as a city that's hard to work with when it comes to developers. We want to be one that's not, we're not going to roll over. We're not going to waive everything. That's not what I mean by being good to work with. We want to be helpful. We want to not put up roadblocks. We want to be the ones that say, well, this isn't going to work, but maybe we can try this route. And so I believe we can play an important role in doing that. One of the things that, the other thing is just, I want to thank again the council for consideration of our budget and the necessary needs that necessary objectives we have. Some of those things that we rolled out and discussed in our strategic planning session, we might have to roll that back temporarily because of if our budget is rolled back a little bit. But I wanted to let you know that our executive committee and our board is behind our effort to work with you to do what we can for less. So appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Paul. I think one of the statements that you made was basically the economic engine that helps fuel the economy here, and the work that you've done. Am I correct? Was that 79 million?
Yes.
79 million in increased value, which when you apply the mill levy, or the taxation amounts, helps not just support our city, but our schools and our county as well. And so it really shows how connected every piece of our community is and how important every piece is, and definitely appreciated that you're willing to help figure out a way to help us move forward. Any questions? Any questions from the public? Thank you very much for attending tonight, attending their meetings earlier this week.
Thank you for all that you do to help support the community, and all of this wouldn't be possible without collaboration.
Final discussion that we have tonight, budget-wise, has to do with our Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Veronica Grosick, and pretty much all of you know me as the Executive Director of the Sturgis Area Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And I have here with me today my immediate past president, Rochelle Brook. I have our treasurer, Jesse Duffner, our vice president, Rose Byers, and our president is Travis Bartels. And then my assistant director is in the back, Cadence Gleason. So I didn't really prepare a big speech or anything, but I can say that we've had a number of very valuable discussions over the past couple weeks with your legal and finance team. And so I guess I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say, but I think that we're at a point right now with the city and the chamber and our community where we have the opportunity to make some big changes, maybe remove some things that aren't working for everyone, including the chamber, and add some things that might be more to our betterment. So what questions do you guys have for us based on what we've discussed?
Veronica, I think I can help some of the council and some of the audience understand that some of our discussions over the last week has been, is everything that we're doing working? Are there things that maybe aren't doing as good as what we had originally hoped? Is there ways that we can put resources in other locations that help our community? And just like SEDC, our chamber helps us grow in a different way, but similar. I mean, it's a rising tide sort of a situation where we're being part of the team and bringing forward good ideas and those sorts of things. I mean, it's not just about having great services, it's also about having a great community to live in. And I think the chamber has helped us immensely as a community through all the years that I've lived here. I think everyone on council can concur with that. I like as we've gone forward in our discussions that we have the opportunity to speak openly and freely about making adjustments to help do better. Not to overuse this phrase, but do more for less. And while we don't have a final decision on where we can land on that, that's coming. We appreciate your willingness to talk about what you can provide and how you can help us, not only in our budget situation, but help us also exceed expectations in some of those event-oriented items.
Right. Yeah, I think that as a little bit of background, so we're the Welcome Center for Sturgis. We serve all of our visitors, our guests. We do a great number of activities to help everyone that comes through our community, but we're also the Chamber of Commerce. So we're very much a twofold organization where we're the Visitors Bureau, we're helping the visitors come in, but we're also supporting our business community from within and providing, we're one of probably the only organizations now that are truly providing events and initiatives that help build the community, like you said. So we do like Fall Festival, the community picnic, the Parade of Lights. We do so many different things. We have 48 events that we held last year, and some of those cater to visitors, some of them cater to agriculture, some to businesses themselves, and some to just better the community. So I think we're very willing to come to the table and look at all of the things that we're doing that could change, and look at the things that you guys are needing as a city to help fill in some gaps.
Outstanding. Again, we're not talking specific funding amounts tonight or anything. I mean, we still have to sort through those things.
Great.
Is there any comments or questions that members of the council might have of our chamber?
Well, I would gladly support the chamber, as I've said here in this council before. I can't imagine a city working without the Chamber of Commerce, and it's in our interest to work in partnership with you. And I appreciate what you did with our committee meeting this morning and yesterday, Wednesday, I guess, and tonight even being here. It's, as I've said to many people, when they say we've got trouble in Sturgis, I always say yes, but we have the people in place now to foster a change, and that's and you're part of that, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any comments from the audience? Bonnie.
What is our current responsibility to the chamber? I remember a long time ago when that was set, but I don't remember now what our responsibility is to the chamber.
Bonnie, I don't think your mic's on, but I'll repeat the question. What is our responsibility to the chamber? We have a contract with the chamber. They've been 1-year contracts. And so anything we do will need to be followed up with a ratification of a contract outlining what that means and how it's done. I believe that's the same process. I think SEDC has been 1-year contracts historically. And so every year we revisit those pieces. Does that answer your question?
It does. And you said 48 events?
Yes, so our Chamber and Visitors Bureau, unlike many organizations like ours, hosts a lot of community events, business networking events, that type of thing. But we also offer business services. We operate the Welcome Center for Sturgis. We mail out visitor and relocation information, like the list goes on. So the events, yes, are a big part of our conversations with legal and finance, just because that's a huge part of what we do as an organization, and it takes a lot of funds. But we do quite a lot additionally as well.
Well, and I know that as much as I try to stay abreast of what's going on in the community, this last year particularly, when we've had elections and candidate forums and stuff, the chamber is popping up, and I'm becoming aware of things that you do out of the chamber that I've been a little oblivious to before, and I apologize to you for my oblivion. But I just wanted to draw that out, that you do events and you do a lot of other less visible things that really help people get a footing. And I appreciate what you've done with the candidate forums particularly. I've gone to those, and those have been really helpful to have that. Thank you.
I might hitchhike on that. I just found out on the 17th of December we'll have a candidate forum as it relates to our January 7th. And that'll be, I'm not sure, 1230 Douglas is the only thing I got, whatever building that is.
It's actually the old Williams administration building attached to the middle school, so the 2-story older portion of that. Yep.
6 o'clock on Tuesday the 17th.
17th.
Bonnie. So that'll be a good opportunity for people to meet the candidates for this January 7th election.
Right.
One thing I'd like to draw attention to when we're talking about financing with the chamber is back in 2019 approximately, the chamber was reliant approximately 60% on the city for financing its entirely revenue, 60% of the city of financing the revenue of the chamber. Veronica has dropped it to just at 40% since 2019. So we have significantly reduced our dependency on the city just in the last 5 years alone. So I think we'd like to showcase that a smidge.
And I had one more comment as well on what Bonnie said about us doing election forums and that type of thing. I tell people all the time that chambers of commerce are very unique because in every single community, they form to what that community needs and fill in gaps where it needs them. So we're very malleable. We can change and we can grow into what Sturgis needs right now.
Bernie, yes. Can Bernie have the mic?
Yeah, Bernie is there again. What I was wondering, asking the council, what are you asking of our chamber that you've been meeting with them? So what is on your agenda for working with the chamber? Is it more, asking them to do more, or what was the background for this, please?
Well, some of it has been is every event that they're currently doing, meeting their success metrics, which that also factors into funding that we provide. If we're not getting bang for the buck, I mean, do we need to pay for it? Do we need to do it? There has been additional discussion on whether or not there's some way they can help us prop up some of our existing events. I mean, we spoke about our events budget and having struggles with some of our other city events, and is there a way that we can work together to make sure that we can complete those events, host those events, and not have to cause issues where our budget scenario, the adjustments that we're having to make, makes deep adjustments to the community that we have and the great place that we have to live, while preserving all these other mandatory items that we're doing in our community. So,
Are you asking them to help then with, say, the rally?
we have not asked them to help with the rally.
You have not,
Have not.
okay? But what about, what other city events would you want them to help you with?
Well, we've got events that, one of them was an event that was started this last year. It was a budding event, if you will. Everyone knows that Cool Deadwood Nights bookends the rally. That event is spilling out of the community of Deadwood, and they actually ask us to be a piece of it. At least some people from that community had asked us to have. We did a small event. There's a possibility that we can use that and build on it a little bit. What that is, we don't know yet, but that's sort of a discussion, is how can we fill in the gaps? Any further discussion? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate everyone having taken the time. These budget discussions at times can seem boring. Next item on our agenda is executive session. We certainly have a need for executive session tonight. In executive session, we have a personnel item. We have a legal brief. And we have a contract to consider, and afterwards we do have the expectation of council action, as was added in the approval of the agenda portion. So with that in mind, is there a motion to go into executive session for those three items: personnel, legal, and contractual?
I'll second.
First by Jim, second by Ruth, to go into executive session. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Council
We hear voices and footsteps.
Did you truly sleep?
Ruth, how are you doing this with your training regimen?
Which problem?
I'm glad you like it.
It's nice and cool down here.
Well, it's beautiful.
You got us lined out? We're live? Show's live. Yeah, a friend of mine made this. It's pretty old, back from the 90s.
Pretty cool.
No. All right, City Council is back from executive session. I'm looking for a motion to return to regular session from executive session.
I'll second.
First by Jim, second by Ruth. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. We are back in regular session. The last item on our agenda for the night was the item added when we approved the agenda. That was consideration of the union contract. Is there a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to reject the existing offer from the union and present a counter offer.
We have a motion by Ruth to reject the current offer and submit a counter offer.
I'll second.
Second by Nick. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. That's the end of our agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
First by Tony, second by Nick. Those in favor of adjournment indicate by stating yes.